constant effort in trying to convince the masses that their entire reality is scripted has become a bit exhausting and redundant. Truthfully, there really shouldn't even be any reason to create these films trying to prove so. So instead, with this project, we've decided to create a timeline full of riddles and events that have unfolded throughout our lifetime, just to show you how obvious the script truly is. Basically, it's time that us enlightened ones dumb it down for the dumb ones. So without further ado, we present to you Riddle, Riddle, Truth Lies in the Middle. So first, we'll take it all the way back and begin with the story of little old Emmitt Till. Emmitt Louis Till was born in the year 1941. He was born and raised in the heart of South Side Chicago. In the story of Emmitt Till, it's said that Emmitt was abducted, tortured, and lynched after being accused of offending a white woman by the name of Carolyn Bryant while in her family's grocery store. What unfolds next and final moments leading up to Emmitt's death ties into this mysterious riddle that we've been oblivious and distracted to for years. But here's what's said happened to Emmitt Till leading up to his death. Emmitt was visiting relatives in Mississippi. He spoke to Miss Carolyn Bryant, the white married proprietor of a small grocery store. Although what happened at the store is a matter of dispute, Till was accused of whistling at Bryant. Till's interaction with Bryant, perhaps unwittingly, violated the unwritten code of behavior for a black male. Interacting with a white female in the Jim Crow era in the South, it was stated that Emmitt and his colleagues, out of fear, would then take off running for whistling at Bryant.
For Emmitt Till, the trouble started here, at Bryant's Meat Market and Grocery Store in Money, Mississippi. Back then, most of the customers at this store were black workers from nearby cotton plantations. The store was owned by a white couple, Roy Bryant, and his 21-year-old wife, Carolyn, who was behind the counter the afternoon that Emmitt Till and his cousins came in to buy some candy. As he was leaving the store, Emmitt Till whistled at Carolyn Bryant. She went to get a gun. Simeon Wright, Emmitt Till's cousin who lived in Mississippi, was 12 years old on that day when they went to Bryant's grocery store. Today, at 62, he says the sound of Emmitt whistling is as vivid to him now as it was 50 years ago.
When he whistled, we ran, we jumped in the car. We ran, we jumped in the car. And we got out of there.
Just because he whistled?
Oh, yes. It's like if you're a kid, you throw a rock and break a window, you don't hang around and see what's going to happen.
But this scripted incident in history is what would set the stage for future riddles years and years ahead. One of the most obvious riddles is a story that is all too familiar to many sports fans. Now when we think of the name Emmitt and we hear the word running, who is the first person to come to mind? Emmitt Smith. Emmitt Smith was a running back for the Dallas Cowboys. Get it? Running back. Run. But Dallas, which is located in the state of Texas, is mostly known for its horseback riding. One of the first thoughts that come to mind when it comes to cowboys are slave overseers in the field. The Emmitt Till torture and treatment in death was purposely done to subconsciously remind folks of slavery, which always tends to spark outrage. These manufactured moments are created for various reasons, such as furthering the programming by inserting these scripted events into school textbooks for history classes. History classes are used for programming and so that teachers can earn a salary. Just think about it. Without history, there would be no need for history teachers or history class. which also unknowingly forces the sheep to stay connected to this make-believe scripted reality. These tragic events also create timelines and timestamps in this written history so that in the future, new staged events can be done to honor the Mason/Elites, Masonic traditions and rituals, and this simply gives the news stations more ammo to remind folks of that moment as another way of distracting the public from current and future agendas. But it's all just a game. But speaking of Emmitt, Till, and running, Emmitt Smith, the Dallas Cowboys running back, would go on to become the NFL's all-time rushing leader in NFL history. But here's where the plot twist and riddles of the story gets far more darker yet interesting. There was this one player who Emmitt Smith once had to surpass on the NFL's all-time rushing list was a player by the name of Walter Payton. Walter Payton was born 2 years before the death of Emmitt Till, born in Mississippi, which is the state where Emmitt Till was lynched. But far back in history, there was another man who shared the same name, Walter, whose full name was Walter White. Walter White was famously known for being a civil rights activist who once led the NAACP. Walter White waged a long and ultimately successful campaign against the lynching of blacks by white mobs in the United States, especially in the South. White used his appearance to increase his effectiveness in conducting investigations of lynches. Through 1927, White investigated 41 lynches. He nearly joined the Ku Klux Klan undercover. White became a master of incognito investigating. Walter became a strong proponent and supporter of the federal anti-lynching bills. Walter would then go on to die in 1955, which so happened to be the exact same year Emmitt Till would die and was lynched. Emmitt Smith wore the jersey number 22. If you add up each number in Emmitt's total amount of career rushing yards, you get the number 22. What a coincidence. Also, Emmitt ended his Cowboys career in the year 2002. But if you add 1955 plus 22, it equals 1977, which so happened to be Walter Payton's best NFL season, winning MVP, Man of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, the rushing leader and touchdowns leader. Also in 1977, he surpassed O.J. Simpson's rushing record, a black man who killed a white woman. Walter Payton officially broke the NFL's all-time rushing record back in 1984 against the New Orleans Saints. And remember, Sean Payton, who once played for the Chicago Bears back in 1987, the year after Walter Payton retired. But remember how Emmitt Smith wore the jersey number 22. If you add the year 1984, which is the year Walter broke the all-time rushing record, you get the year 2006, which so happened to be the year that Sean Payton became the New Orleans Saints head coach. But fast forward to the year 2002, Emmitt Smith surpasses Walter Payton on the NFL all-time rushing list, similar to how Walter White, who was known for his anti-lynching campaign, passed away months before Emmitt Till's lynching that shocked the world. And remember, Kobe died after LeBron surpassed his record. Also back in 2022, President Joe Biden would sign the Emmitt Till Anti-Lynching Act, an American law which makes lynching a federal hate crime. But that's not all. Here's where the plot gets even more wicked than you ever could imagine. Emmitt Smith would then go on to retire from the game of football in the year 2004. 4 years later, like 2 plus 2 equals 4. In 2008 was the premiere of a very popular television show called Breaking Bad, which starred a main character by the name of Walter White, the same name of the guy who led the force in the anti-lynching campaign. The show Breaking Bad premiered 9 years after Walter Payton's death in 1999, and in the next year, 2009, Sean Payton and the New Orleans Saints won the NFL Super Bowl. Ironically, 1 year later, in 2010, Emmitt Smith would enter the NFL's Hall of Fame, but let's rewind all the way back to 2003, which was the year that free agent Emmitt Smith decided to join the Arizona Cardinals. But before we go any further, let's break down the deeper meaning and symbolism behind the bird cardinal. Arizona is one of the hottest states in terms of weather. Phoenix is the largest city in Arizona. The Cardinals Stadium is just west of Phoenix, now named the State Farm Stadium, but was once named the Sun Devil Stadium. Sun Devil is just a code word for Sun God, which is a deity that the Masons and higher-ups love to worship. The cardinal is known for its red exterior. The devil was always depicted as this red creature. The red symbolizes blood, heat, and fire. For instance, the Miami Heat's logo, the rock band, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, etc. The bird ultimately represents the phoenix bird. The phoenix is an immortal bird in Greek mythology associated with the sun. A phoenix obtains new life by rising from the ashes of its predecessor. Some legends say it dies in a show of flames before being born again. The sun god, or sun devil, is just like the saying, Lucifer, son of the morning. But here's how the riddles align with one another in the death of Emmitt Till, who was the predecessor of his born-again successor Emmitt Smith. The Arizona Cardinals once had a player by the name of Pat Tillman. Get it? Emmitt. Pat Till. Like Emmitt Till. Pat Tillman would mysteriously die in the year 2004. Which many seem to believe was a conspiracy behind his sudden death. Ironically, the year Pat Tillman dies in 2004, Emmitt Smith would then retire with the Cardinals that same year. Emmitt Smith wore the jersey number 22. 2 plus 2 equals 4. Pat Tillman enlisted in the U.S. Army in 2002 until he died in April. The 4th month of the year, on the 22nd, and 2 plus 2 equals 4. Pat Tillman also wore the jersey number 4, 0. He also once played for the Arizona State Sun Devils. Get it, Sun? And the sun is made of fire. And it's also said that the Pentagon notified the Tillman family he was actually killed by fire from his own side, not by his enemy.
Because they weren't shortfalls, they weren't missteps, and they weren't errors. They were deliberate attempts to cover up what happened in order for them to use Pat's death for propaganda purposes at a time during the war in 2004 when, Abu Ghraib prison scandal was breaking, Fallujah, was falling apart. I mean, it was a terrible time for the military and for that administration. And Pat's death was an opportunity for them. So in other words, they thought Pat's death was a positive thing for them because they could use it for propaganda.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it was a fratricide, so they had to spin it.
Why, though, Patrick, isn't this statement enough to say, okay, He was killed by friendly fire. They made some mistakes. Some people did it. They're fully admitting it now. What do you want?
Well, it's not mistakes of a few. It was choreographed. It was choreographed. And to this day, they have not put sufficient facts on the table for me to know what happened to my son. Strong evidence of 2 shooters, not one. There's a lot of other evidence in there that would take quite a while to go through. But the big deal here is this is not a few mistakes that were made, or as they say, the mistakes of a few. This was a choreographed event. This was a choreographed event.
But speaking of Emmitt, Pat Tillman, Emmitt Smith, is married to a woman by the name of Patricia South Hall. Get it? Another obvious riddle. Pat is short for Patricia, and if you put all the names together, it's Emmitt. Pat Tillman. The name Emmitt is the elite's twisted flip to honoring and the veneration to the neo-pagan religion ancient Kemet. If you remove the K in Kemet, you have Emmet, like Emmitt, Till. Kemetic pagan is one who follows Kemetism, worshipping other deities outside of the Christian faith, indulging in evil practices and rituals. Patricia Hall was once married to comedian Martin Lawrence. Martin Lawrence was named after the civil rights activist and martyr Martin Luther King Jr., and surprisingly, the Emmitt Till death was one of the major tragic incidents that reignited the extreme push for justice and equality in the civil rights movement led by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. My theory is the Walter White character from the television show Breaking Bad is a rebirthed character, similar to the tale of the Phoenix Bird, a resurrection, a display of once being good and then evil. I also think that the same character could be playing reoccurring roles, past, present, and in the future. Many of the other riddles today are far less complex to decode, such as it's said that a man by the name of Chris Brown, who was an explorer and shares the same name as the famous R&B singer Chris Brown, it's said that the explorer pulled out of the Titanic submarine, and ironic enough, Chris Brown once released a song titled Submarine. Speaking of the Titanic, how ironic is it that the story of the current Titanic ship sinking correlates with the Titanic movie and the ship sinking? Also, the story of the cloned island boys were photoed with Jeffrey Epstein on the Epstein Island. Moving right along, then there was the famous story of the manufactured rap legend Tupac Shakur, which his death was nothing more than pure theater. But just recently, there was a report that knew details of information into the case in the murder of Tupac, where a man named Keefe D, whose nephew Orlando Anderson was said to be the one who had actually killed Tupac, but Keefe D was allegedly involved in the murder, and his home was just recently raided by the FBI. Bullets were found in the home as Keefe D held on to them for years like they were souvenirs. To one of the more recent riddles is when a 26-year-old homeless woman who mysteriously shares the same name as Tupac Shakur, she was arrested for beating a man with a baseball bat. This riddle goes much deeper down the Tupac rabbit hole. The elites recreate moments simply to mock the masses, because they know they forget. But Tupac was actually once charged back in 1993, which would have made 29 years ago. But this almost instantly made me think about the Tupac Toss It Up video, where he was seen holding a baseball bat and would then smash the mirror with the bat. The Tupac Toss It Up music video was filmed on the evening of September 6, 1996, which so happened to be a day before the infamous Tupac Vegas shooting. Ironically, on the same day, 26 years later, the lady who has the same name as Tupac was charged for attacking a man with a baseball bat. The number 7 is said to symbolize the number of completion. Tupac was 25 years old when he died. 2 plus 5 equals 7. If you add up each number in the year 1996, it equals 25, and 2 plus 5 equals 7. The lady was 34, and 3 plus 4 is 7. But this is where we dig deeper into this creepy, wicked rabbit hole. The light-skinned homeless woman had me wrecking my brain thinking, what light-skinned woman comes to mind when I see her face? And then it all made sense. Baseball bat, toss it up music video. Lisa Ray, but I know what you are thinking, and yes, you are correct. This woman looks nothing like the Lisa Ray that we all know, but she does share resemblance to another Lisa Ray, who was also a Canadian actress and appeared in 90s films. She mysteriously made her first acting debut in 1996. The same year Tupac was allegedly murdered. The Canadian actress Lisa Ray was born 1 year after Tupac was born. The light-skinned Lisa Ray was born September 23rd, which so happens to be 10 days after Tupac was murdered. The Canadian Lisa Ray made her Indian industry film debut in the Hindi movie called Kazor. The plot of the film is about a woman named Preeti, who was the wife of a man by the name of Shakur. Get it? Like Tupac Shakur. But a wealthy, well-known journalist becomes an inspector and investigates the case. He accuses Shakur of the murder and says he has strong evidence to have Shakur arrested. But doesn't that sound similar to the Tupac case? Having all the evidence, but the murderer was never convicted. That sounds very much like Tupac's alleged killer, Orlando Anderson, who actually looks like Tupac. But speaking of Tupac's murder and the night of the shooting, it's said that the shooting occurred at 11:15. The homeless lady named Tupac attacked the man at 11:30. The lady was then taken to Turner Knight Correctional Center. Oddly enough, Tupac was supposed to play Tyrant Turner role in the movie Menace to Society, where he stomps out the guy like what Pac did to Orlando Anderson. But back to Tupac, and him dying at the age 25, like Orlando Anderson in 1995. A year before Tupac passed, there was a former NBA player by the name of Nick Anderson, who was born in Chicago and played for the Orlando Magic. Nick Anderson wore the jersey number 25. Anderson was famously known for his steal in the 1995 Eastern Conference playoffs against Michael Jordan, who played for the Chicago Bulls where Anderson was from. But there's an eerie correlation with the word steal in connection to the both bald-headed so-called GOATs, Tupac and Michael Jordan. Anderson was known for his steal against Jordan, and it's said the incident between Tupac and Orlando Anderson stemmed from a 1996 incident at Lakewood Mall that involved Anderson and his Crip gang members, which resulted in someone stealing a member of Death Row's medallion. Coincidentally, Anderson was spotted in the MGM casino, and someone told Tupac that Anderson was responsible for stealing the chains. Get it? Stealing. Michael Jordan, who returned to the game of basketball after his father was allegedly killed for gambling. He wore the jersey number 45, as Anderson would take shots at MJ for not being the same great player as number 23 Jordan. MJ would then change back to his original number 23. However, the Bulls still would lose to the Magic, but would get their revenge in the 1996 conference finals to advance to the NBA Finals. But Anderson's first name is Nick, and Nick rhymes with Crip. Like Orlando, Anderson was a Crip, and Crips were blue. In Freemasonry, the red often goes against the blue, just like politics as well. But the Magic, who wear blue, went up against the Bulls, who wear the color red. And remember, Suge Knight and the MOB Blood members beat up a Crip in Orlando, Anderson. But speaking of Magic versus the Bulls, Tupac would attend his very last NBA game on February 2nd, 1996, months before his death. Do you know what team he went to go see? The Lakers versus the Bulls. Magic versus Jordan. Magic like Orlando Magic. But speaking of Bulls, what are Bulls commonly known for when they are on the attack? They rush at you, just as Tupac did to Orlando Anderson. But speaking of Mike, Tupac's last night in Vegas was seeing the Mike Tyson fight in Paradise, Nevada. But in 1998, which is the same exact year MJ would retire from the game of basketball, but Orlando Anderson would die at the age of 23, which so happens to be MJ's jersey number, and the following season would be Nick Anderson's final year as Orlando Magic as well. But many people often say how much Tupac and Orlando Anderson look alike, but no one ever questioned, could he be Tupac's clone? Which is why his name is Tupac. So who really died in the BMW? Was it Tupac or Lando? But Tupac stomped out Orlando Anderson and was riding alongside Suge Knight the night of his death. Get it? Tyrant Turner and Suge Knight, and the homeless lady named Tupac was taken to Turner Knight Correctional Center after delivering a vicious ass-kicking. The eerie thing about the connection of Tupac and Orlando Anderson is, other than the fact they look alike, but Orlando Anderson's birthday is August 13th, which so happened to be 1 month before Tupac dies on September 13th. And then Orlando Anderson died May 29th, which so happens to be 1 month before Tupac's birthday in June. Now let's transition over to another entertainer in Nicki Minaj, who has constantly been accused of being a reptile, in which I believe these conspiracies have been given credit for a multitude of reasons. However, Nicki Minaj is playing a reoccurring character. She has morphed into the Nicki character, but she once played another character in the past generation, and that is Chaka Khan. Not only do these characters look very much alike, but they both share the same personality traits. Chaka Khan has showed bitterness and has turned her nose up to the newer generation, just like Nicki. There was always a staged beef between Nicki Minaj and her so-called idol Lil' Kim. It's said that Nicki stole Kim's entire style, but here's where the fans were purposely focused on this staged beef as a big distraction. This Nicki and Kim connection is a riddle that ties back to Chaka Khan. Lil' Kim was supposedly raised in the Bronx, New York, and mysteriously, Lil' Kim had a very close friend who she got her entire style and fashion from as well, and her name is Chaka Dawn. Get it? Chaka Dawn like Chaka Khan, and she also wore the same hairstyle as Lil' Kim's nemesis Nicki Minaj. Also note that Chaka Khan, or whatever extraterrestrial creature that is under her skin, has morphed into multiple different characters. which is why Chaka Khan has a song titled I Am Every Woman. In one of the projects we did on Kanye West, we broke down the connection with Chaka Khan and Kanye. We also showed how the two had a song together named Through the Wire, and 7 years later the two would meet again, with Nicki Minaj feature on a song called Monster. But here's where the plot takes another dark turn. Another riddle and connection that many people overlooked was the rapper Lil Boosie and Flavor Flav. Originally, when Lil Boosie first arrived on the hip-hop scene, many people cracked jokes about him looking exactly like Flavor Flav, and saying that Flavor Flav was Boosie's father. Little did they know, the elites intentionally spread this rumor, because as an inside joke amongst the elites, they know that these are two of the same creatures, and that they are either aliens, clones, or reptiles transforming into each other. And once you study their similar backgrounds, it's clear deception. Charleston White, who is a puppet for the elites, said that Boosie is morphing into Flavor Flav.
You talking about that little diabetic with that dry cotton mouth? Oh, yeah, no, man, hell no. That insulin. I'm gonna talk about that on stage. Man, y'all tell Boosie to sit down somewhere. Sit that down somewhere. He really morphing into Flavor Flav. Who, Boosie? He's more and more. The older that boy look, the more they look like Flavor Flav.
Most people didn't take that statement literal. However, it's very much true. But more than just the looks, the two backgrounds is much too similar to just be a coincidence. For instance, just like Flavor Flav, Lil Boosie also has a bunch of kids. Both Boosie and Flavor Flav both had their run-ins with the law and were in and out of prison. Supposedly, Flavor Flav's father passed away in 1997 from complications of diabetes. Ironically, Lil Boosie himself is said to be a diabetic. But what's interesting is, Boosie's father also passed away in 1997, which was the same exact year Flavor Flav's father passed. Flavor Flav started his music career with a conscious rap group named Public Enemy. Alongside his friend Chuck D, Boosie started his rap career with a group named Concentration Camp, and was introduced to music through his cousin named Young D. Flavor Flav's debut solo project was released October 31st, 2006. Lil Boosie album that put him on the map was released October 24th, 2006. But there is another Boosie as well, Boosie Collins, whose birthday is October 26th. The rapper Trina, Young Miami, and Missy Elliott are all played by the same clone characters, but are some form of creatures disguised. Even when you pronounce the name Elliott fast, it almost sounds like alien. Missy Elliott also made a post admitting that she was an alien, but once again no one seemed to take the statement literal. The elites relish in playing right in our faces. Missy Elliott and Trina look so much alike, but they also say Trina looks like Young Miami. Just a while back, it was reported that Missy Elliott went to an event and was somehow mistaken for Young Miami. The conversation of Missy Elliott being mistaken for Young Miami was done intentionally. The elites constantly poke fun at the stupidity of the masses, not seeing that these characters are clones. Not too long after that, the two clones Young Miami and Trina would come together in a face-to-face sit-down interview. Young Miami would then ask Trina about rumors that her and Missy Elliott were dating, but one must ask, with all the men that Trina has dated in the industry, why did Young Miami choose to ask her specifically about Missy Elliott? Peep this riddle. Do you know what's really funny? Speaking of Trina and her dating men in the industry, it's also said that Trina dated a rapper who coined the phrase, "We are not the same, I am a Martian," and who has also stated that Missy Elliott was a huge influence on his career, and that's Lil Wayne. But it's said that Lil Wayne and Trina, whose real name is Katrina, started dating back in 2005. But when you think of the name Katrina and Lil Wayne, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Hurricane Katrina and New Orleans. Wayne dated Katrina 1 year before Hurricane Katrina. Back to the Three Stooges. All three of these characters are known for romanticizing and glorifying promiscuity, promoting the freaky side of women. Ironically, both Trina and Young Miami are from Miami, Florida. Missy Elliott was born in the state of Virginia, but is mostly known for her lavish Florida mansion that she premiered on an old TV show called MTV Cribs. The female rapper Trina was introduced to the world back in 1999, alongside her mentor and handler Trick Daddy, with their smash hit Nah Nigga, Mysteriously. One of the directors of the video, Nah Nigga, name is JT Money, and what do you know? Young Miami group member name so happens to be JT. Trina would then go on to release her second solo project titled Diamond Princess, produced by none other than Missy Elliott, but we'll go more in-depth about that album's significance later in the film. But just an honorable mention, all three of these characters have 7 letters in their real names and ends with an A. Carisha, Katrina, and Melissa. Missy Elliott and Trina are 7 years apart. If you break apart Missy Elliott and Young Miami real name, you have Risha and Lisa. But let's fully break down this entire riddle. Missy Elliott began her music career being a part of an all-girls group named Phase. Phase would end up catching the attention of a member of the legendary R&B group Jodeci. A man by the name Devante would sign Phase to a record deal on his own imprint titled Swing Mob, but keep the name Swing and Mob in mind. However, Missy Elliott, big break and official music start, would come as a feature vocalist on Sean Puffy Combs' Bad Boy remixes. Missy was supposed to sign a record deal with Puffy. However, she would eventually sign to her own imprint, but let's highlight all of the riddles. Missy rhymes with Diddy. The rapper Trina began her rap career with Trick Daddy. A trick is a man who spends his money on women he's trying to impress in hopes of receiving something sexually in return. Trick is also short for Tricky, and Tricky rhymes with Diddy. And remember, Missy, who was once big like Biggie, started her career with Diddy and Bad Boy Records as a backup vocalist. Before signing with Diddy, Missy was signed to a label called Swing Mob. Missy, who was rumored to be dating the female rapper Trina, once produced an album titled Diamond Princess back in 2003. Ironically, right around the time of Trina's album Diamond Princess, then came a new rap group on the scene named Crime Mob. 2 members out of the group were 2 females by the name of Diamond and Princess, breaking through with their smash hit, Nuck If You Buck, which is a song about the celebration of elbow throwing and fist fighting. Remember, Missy Elliott started her career signed to the label Swing Mob. Get it? Swing, like throwing a punch. But speaking of fighting, it was rumored that the female rapper Diamond was dating Lil Scrappy, who's known for fighting. Put them paws on them. Back to Trina and her other 2 clones. Trina was introduced to the world alongside a Trick, and just like Trina and Missy, who started with Diddy, their clone Young Miami is mostly known for her relationship with a man who has no shame in being a trick at all, and that trick is Diddy. Young Miami says they go together real bad. Speaking of not being ashamed, Young Miami admits one of her fetishes, which is she loves golden showers, being peed on. The masses seem to catch on to that riddle very easily. P. Diddy, like pee, or like pee on her, but Missy rhymes with Diddy and Missy. But let's get back to more of the simple riddles, especially when you watch a lot of sports and understand the matrix. The riddles then become so easy to figure out, such as the riddle of Chris Paul and his last name Paul, and the name Anthony and its connection. Chris Paul is mostly known for his State Farm commercials, where he is seen with what seems to be a clone by the name Cliff Paul. LeBron James, who is supposed to be one of Chris Paul's best friend, has a close friend by the name Rich Paul. Also another one of their close friends is Carmelo Anthony. Back in 2017, the OKC Thunder traded for Paul Clifton Anthony George. The OKC Thunder were looking to form a super team to combat what the Golden State Warriors did with Kevin Durant, so they decided to trade for Carmelo Anthony to pair him with Paul, Cliff, Anthony George, and Russell Westbrook. However, that super team failed epically, as the general manager would break up the team, so they decided to trade all their star players away to rebuild. In 2019, Paul Cliff Anthony George was sent to the Clippers where Chris Paul once played. As OKC would let go Paul George, they would bring in Chris Paul. Another weird riddle is the death of the comedian DC Young Fly's girlfriend Miss.Jacky O, where she supposedly died due to medical complication from plastic surgery. There are so many connections with the name Jackie O. John F. Kennedy, wife who died, was named Jackie O, and just like John F. Kennedy, DC Young Fly real name is John Whitfield. John F. Kennedy also went by the nickname Jack. Like Jackie O, John F. Kennedy, wife's real name was Jacqueline, which was DC Young Fly wife real name as well. And President Kennedy once resided in Washington, D.C., like the name DC Young Fly. Ms. Jackie O died at the age 32. In the year 23, which is 32 reversed, Miss Jackie O died on May 31st, 2023, which made 2 days after the birthday of John F. Kennedy, and 12 days after the original Jackie O death day, and 29 days from DC Young Fly's birthday, who was born in the year 92. John F. Kennedy's birthday was May 29th, 1917. And DC Young Fly birthday is May 2nd, 1992. If you add 31, which is how old DC Young Fly is, in the year his girlfriend died, plus 1963, you get 1994, which is the year John F. K. wife died, and JFK also had a son named John Jr., and if you subtract 1994 from 2023, you get 29, which is 92 reversed if you subtract the year 2023 minus 1963, you get 60. But there was another Jackie O that all of us seem to forget about, who was a Florida rapper, famous for the song Nookie. Her birthday is November 24th, 1971. And 71 in reverse is 17, which is John F. Kennedy, also known as Jack, like Jackie O birthday year. Mysteriously, John F. Kennedy died November 22nd, 1963. The rapper Jackie birthday is November 24th, and DC Young Fly's girlfriend, Miss.Jacky O's birthday was November 3rd, 1990. Coincidentally, the female rapper Jackie O rose to fame with her hit song Nookie back in 2003, and the model Miss.Jacky O died in 2023. But DC Young Fly is often compared to the comedian Chris Tucker, Get It Tucker, and his girlfriend Jackie O died from a mommy makeover, which includes a tummy tuck. But Chris Tucker is also known for being a part of the beloved movie duo in the film Rush Hour, alongside his partner, Jackie Chan. Like Jackie O, where in the film, they had to save the life of a little girl named So Young, like DC Young Fly. And oh, how sad that Jackie died so young. But in the film, there was a scene where Jackie Chan thought Chris Tucker died and was sad, but DC wasn't too sad about Jackie O's death. In this final chapter of the Riddle edition, we'll cover the highly anticipated boxing match between the two fighters Errol the Truth Spence and Terrence Bud Crawford. The last name Spence in itself speaks volumes to the character and how his life story and career has panned out thus far. Suspense, the definition of suspense, a state or feeling of excited or anxious, uncertainty about what may happen. Spence fans are constantly on edge, in and out the ring. The Errol Spence car crash was symbolic, scripted and ritualistic. The crash was just the evil elites using these staged events to tell the Christian version of Jesus' story, but replacing the character with one of Satan's pawns. It's said that Errol Spence was driving a white Ferrari when his accident occurred. The logo of the brand Ferrari is a horse. The white horse symbolizes the Bible scripture of Jesus Christ and him returning as in comeback on a pale white horse, which is why Errol Spence metaphorically resurrected in his car crash and won 2 straight fights after his crash. On a deeper level, and seeing through the matrix, you come to realize that the Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford matchup was simply just 2 fellow craftsmen seeing out Masonic rituals. The Masons believe in duality, the twofold nature of man, the yin and the yang, black and white, 2 opposing forces, and then coming together to become as one, black on black, which means darkness, evil, which is why both Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford both wore all black Air Forces, which has been given the meaning being on demon time, and the famous Masonic handshake to honor the brotherhood. In the aftermath of Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford mega showdown, many fans were highly shocked and suspicious of the massacre-style performance that Terrence Crawford put on Errol Spence. Errol had been battered like never before, which made fans question the legitimacy of Bud's victory. Many fans believed Terrence Crawford was on steroids, but while emotional fans argue back and forth, they missed obvious signs and riddles that this entire showcase was staged, such as Spence's face was viciously battered after the fight. However, days later he magically healed. Terrence Crawford currently has a drug cheat in his camp by the name of Victor Con T. Get it? Con T. But Con T was convicted of supplying his fighters with steroids. Victor Con T was sentenced to serve time, however would be released Upon his release, he would create a company named Snack. After serving time for giving steroid snacks, Crawford entered the ring with Slim Shady. After the event seemed shady, and his Spence looked high, which made people suspect something was off about Spence. The Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford connection goes a little deeper within the Matrix. These two characters are just actors, and you are watching a movie. These two are playing out the roles of two characters from the past, and they are recreating a script in modern day. There was a Western film released back in 1970 titled They Call Me Trinity. The film starred two actors regarded as one of the best duos in film history, and that's a guy by the name of Bud Spencer and Terrence Hill. The plot is about two half-brothers who help defend a Mormon from Mexican bandits and land grabbers. What is the definition of Trinity in Christian faith? It means the unity of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, meaning God is one being who exists in three persons. However, this is the total opposite for the elites, and that Lucifer is one being who exists in three persons, which is why in the film, Trinity, played by Terrence Hill, was called the right hand of the devil, and Bambino, played by Bud Spencer, was called the left hand of the devil. Trinity also means a group of three closely related persons or things, and that's why there were three installments to the film. They Call Me Trinity.
I think Terrence is a beast, but I told him you gonna beat him, man. You gonna prove me right?
Yeah, I seen that, man. I appreciate that.
Word.
Tell him he said 2 out of 3. He said he gonna give you 2 out of 3.
I think it'll be a trilogy.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. You don't think so?
It might be. I might win twice.
In the Western style, horse riding, gun-toting fighting film, now you see why Errol Spence Jr. has a love for horses. Bud Spencer died June 27th, 2016. The following year, May 27th, 2017, which would be a month before Bud Spencer's death, Errol won his first big title shot against Kell Brook, which was like a rebirth. Bud Spencer was born on Halloween, October 31st, 1929. Errol Spence, near fatal car accident, happened October 10th, 2019, 11 days before Bud Spencer's birthday. Bud Spencer's name was inspired by an actor named Spencer Tracy. Spencer Tracy died June 10th, 1967, 17 days before Bud Spencer's death. Spencer Tracy struggled heavily with alcoholism throughout his adult life, even falling out his wagon. He also dealt with bouts of anxiety and depression. The two, Bud Spencer and Terrence Hill, were both featured in their own beat-em-up brawler video game released on December 15th, 2017. The two would also go on to reappear in a 1994 film titled The Fight Before Christmas, and after suffering a loss to Terrence, Spence is expected to rematch Bud in December.
You now have the ability to trigger a rematch.
Hey, yeah, we gotta do it again.